depriving us of the news. D, depriving us of letters to the editor. E, classified advertising ripoff, greed, crookedness. The readers get poorer and poorer, and CEO Curley and his friends add to the millions they make every year and expand their golden parachutes. A judge who has been too sick to be on the bench when a litigant is entitled to a judge of sound body and mind. That's Judge Broderick, who died March the 3rd, 1995. This is what the court stood up for. Try to explain that to a kid in the country that boasts, quote, with liberty and justice for all. 9, you stood up for crooked judges and other law-breaking public officers of the United States of America. You, the highest court in the land, did this. Here you should be setting them straight, and you are led by them. Your record stands forever. It went on TV this week, and you give not a word of explanation. Glendora writes you 50 pages, works 50 hours. You return her 3 lines. And you give no reasons. It is a recorded announcement. Why did they lie to us in school about the courts? Glendora did what was right, good, and true. She uncovered the corruption. She reported it. She exposed it. She took it to court. That is, to courts and courts and courts and courts. Again, we have hollow black robes. Judge Rehnquist flees to Greensboro, Vermont, to get away from it all. Glendora does not wonder. It is ugly. Glendora's minister, Church of the Highlands, White Plains, has a house near his. Well, the cover-up is gossamer. We can see through it and always will. We spend 50 hours telling you what happened, read your rules, spend our Social Security and pension checks on print and post, spend our life, time, and labor, and you slip us 3 anonymous lines. Madam Justice is dead. Did you go to her funeral? Sir, court reform is deceased also. You think this is the kind of America Franklin offered his life for, June the 6th, 1944, D-Day? I was fool enough to believe what I was taught in 9th grade civics class. The courts are there to do justice. One is wrong. One goes to court to find justice. It has died. The bad guys go scot-free. The good guys get clobbered. The courts are broken down, shut the doors, closed for repairs, out of order. We have spent $11,000 believing a school lie, believing propaganda. There is justice. Tell people the truth. Courts don't function anymore. You can't deal with it anymore. Thank you at least for not robbing me of $300. Courts are the worst consumer fraud in America. Here is today's joke. Bob and Joan have a car that breaks down so often they bought the perfect second car, a tow truck. Yours in truth, Glendora, April the 7th, 1995, Friday. Now, that brings us up to the Gannett annual meeting, which is May the 2nd, 1995. And here is the Gannett annual report. And the proxy statement has come. And Glendora has submitted her proxy, and naturally she didn't vote for the directors that Gannett wants in there. And naturally she didn't vote for the accountants that they want. And where's the copy of the proxy report? Anyway, I sent it in, I made my vote, and the interesting thing, and it's too bad, there are no shareholders' proposals this year. That's too bad. There should be shareholders' proposals. I'm just going to read you some of the salaries here that John Curley and McCorkindale are getting. And Katie's going to sleep on the desk. I want to know why John Lewis is not there anymore, and why Mrs. Lewis, Josephine P. Lewis, is there. Securities owned by Gannett Management. Okay, just take a look at these. John J. Curley, Chairman, President, and CEO, owns 560,000 shares. Douglas McCorkindale owns 383,000 shares. Gary Watson owns 59,000 shares. Thomas Curley is John Curley's brother. Isn't that terrific? Meredith Brokaw, who was Tom Brokaw's wife, owns 4,800 shares. Rosalind Carter, Jimmy Carter's wife, owns 4,500 shares. And where's my other defendants? They don't list them. Okay. In September 1994, the John J. Curley Charitable Remainder Unit Trust, of which John Curley is the trustee, sold 130 shares of the company's common stock. The sale was inadvertently overlooked, oh yes, inadvertently, for timely reporting purposes, and was reported on a Form 4 for December, oh yes, inadvertently. Compensation of directors. The company compensates its directors through the payment of annual fees and meeting fees. The annual fee is $42,500. Just for being a director of the company, these people get $42,500 every year. Now, each director, in addition to that, receives a fee of $1,250 for each board meeting. You go to a board meeting an hour and a half, you get $1,250 of that. Something strike you there as very crooked? Each committee chair also receives an annual fee of $5,000. They do what, about 10 hours work a year? And each committee member, including the chair, receives a fee of $1,000 for each committee meeting attended. And also you get something if they have a telephone conversation. I don't see that right there. How's that for crooked CEO corporate ripoff? And if it weren't for the Securities Exchange Commission, you would never know about this, because it would never have to be stated. A report on the Executive Compensation Committee. In 1994, the committee continued to emphasize the important link between the company's performance, which benefits its shareholders, and the compensation of its executive officers. Now they're going to try to rationalize and justify these high salaries. And this is their compensation policy. Listen to this. Base salaries to attract and retain management talent. The crooked way that this company has acted, that has been reported to you on a chat with Glendora now for something like 4 years. This is to retain management talent. Base salaries are designed to help attract and retain key management talent. Fire them, just see how quickly they get a job somewhere else, and that will really show what their talent is. They are derived in part from salary range guidelines developed for each position in accordance with the company's compensation policy. It's all inbred. It's all incestuous. The salary ranges are periodically reviewed and compared to the salaries paid for comparable positions by competitors in the Standard & Poor's Publishing Newspaper Index. What did I tell you? Rationalizations. Now we're talking about the Gannett Company. Now let's read you some of these salaries. Okay, John J. Curley, we'll take a look at them. John J. Curley is making $800,000 a year. Douglas H. McCorkindale is making $650,000 a year. This is salary. Wait till you hear about all the bonuses. Gary L. Watson is making $440,000 a year. And Thomas Curley, John Curley's brother, is making $320,000 a year. I wonder how much John Curley's father and mother get, and his cousins, and his uncles and aunts. Executive incentive bonus plan to motivate year to year. Well, I say that if these executives are not motivated from year to year without being paid more for it, then they ought to can them. Okay, now here's the motivation things. I told you after the salary you were going to see all this. John J. Curley, in addition, gets a $375,000 cash bonus. Oh no, that was in 1993. Just see what he got last year. $562,500 cash bonus in addition to his $800,000. So where is he now? $1.3 million? McCorkindale got a $506,000 cash bonus Gary Watson got a $217,000 cash bonus, and Thomas Curley, John Curley's brother, got a $161,000 cash bonus. Now, in addition to that, we have a long-term stock incentive plan. See, these guys aren't motivated to get this kind of money. You got to motivate them some more. Okay, you got to give them stock. Okay, Curley got in 1994 125,000 shares. McCorkindale got 100,000 shares. Watson got 25,000 shares. Now, in addition to that, we have the Chief Executive Officer compensation. As it does each year, the committee thoroughly reviewed the compensation of John J. Curley. Well, who got the people on the committee? John J. Curley. And who are the people on the committee? John J. Curley's buddies. This thing is so crooked. And it comes out every year. This is the proxy statement of Gannett Corporation. Gannett Company Incorporated. Summary compensation table. Let's add it all up. Take a look. Look at this top one here, John J. Curley. John J. Curley, $800,000 salary, $750,000 bonus, other annual compensation, $15,000, securities underlying options, $125,000, and all other compensation, $44,000. You got to take these securities and you got to look over here at this other chart, and you got to find out what a security is worth. I think it's about $50. Here we are, John J. Curley, potential realizable value at assumed annual rates of stock price. So his securities are worth about $6,754,000. So let's add it all up. I don't know if we're doing this right. $800,000 and $750,000, $1.5 million, right? $14,000, don't even bother with that. And then the $6 million in the securities. What does that come up to? $7 million? Correct me if I'm wrong. McCorkindale securities are worth $5 million. Rip-offs, rip-offs, rip-offs. And they want to collect $535 from me. Value of unexercised in the money options are $1,362,000. If you added that, if we've added it up right now, that's up to $8 million, isn't it? Because we stopped at around 14. Now, one other thing I just want to report to you, and this is for Gannett Suburban Newspapers, a newspaper that won't even go out and give you the news. They don't cover the news. They leave out half of the paper, half of the news in the paper. For their narcissism, they can't find time to report stories about other people, but they'll always find space to support, to include a report about Gannett. And then this doesn't even consider the golden parachutes. If somebody takes over the company, and somebody should, and I hope that's Warren Buffett, who brought just under 5% of the stock, so he didn't have to report it. If somebody takes over the company, then they have a golden parachute, and they get paid these outrageous amounts, even though they're not working for the company anymore. There's one other thing that I wanted to tell you. No, but it was something about the aggregated averages, and I call them the aggravated averages. This is their annual report. In the years past, I have read a lot that comes out of that. So what's pending on Glendora versus Gannett? I guess the Supreme Court is over. It's crooked. It's too bad. It's a great disillusionment. But you know now how things are. And then I guess we're just waiting for Burroughs' decision on my motion to enjoin Collagi from collecting $535 from me until he stops robbing me of my costs over in the Silverman Court on the Cablevision case that I won. Folks, did you ever try to explain counterclockwise to somebody who wears a digital watch? And if the world is getting smaller every day, how come the airfare price of the airline tickets are getting bigger? And Bill says some people, that's the joke that I heard Judge Reap repeat in the courtroom, that he'd heard it on my program. And Bill says that if more people would be interested in the Electoral College if they had a football team. Now we're going to report to you on what happened to Glendora versus the New York State DHCR, the William Street DCHR, and Judge Coppola. I came back from the oral argument in the appellate division, Second Department, on Tuesday, April the 4th, and I did my job there. And then we came back and made a copy of the oral argument, and we sent it to each of the defendants and to all of the judges involved. Judge Matthew F. Coppola, and what is pending there, we are waiting upon the decision of the Appellate Division, Second Department. That will probably be 3 weeks. What is that case all about? Well, you have a landlord who overcharged Glendora for rent, and the property was under the regulation of the New York State Division of Housing and Community Renewal, and under the Emergency Tenant Protection Law Act. And the overcharge, he gave me the overcharge, which was $5,300 for 1 year. And but the New York State Division of Housing and Community Renewal violated the ETPA, the Emergency Tenant Protection Act, and didn't give me treble damages. It should have been something like $16,000. So I sued them for negligence, and Judge Coppola got that case, and Judge Coppola did a rotten job on that case. He even let the DHCR go 2 months without settling the order, and when that happens, the order is abandoned, and Judge Coppola ended up breaking another law. And so I appealed that to the Appellate Division, and that's the oral argument. That was a week ago Tuesday. The second Coppola case was the ETPA says that a landlord cannot harass a tenant to move, and that the first violation is $1,500, and the next violation is something like, maybe the first one's $1,000 and the second is, well, he did, this landlord had about 8 or 9 violations, and it came up to a fine of something like $15,000. So I told the White Plains DHCR about it, and they just let it sit there for 4 or 5 months the way they usually do. And then told me that they didn't take harassment complaints, that you had to go downtown to William Street to file a harassment complaint. So I filed it downtown, and there was a hearing called. We went down on January the 6th, 1994 to the hearing, but Veronica Diaz forgot that it was January the 16th, 1994, and forgot there was a hearing. So we insisted on the hearing because we had given up our work, and we had given up our editing and all kinds of things to get down to Manhattan for this hearing. And I played her the audio tapes, and the audio tapes show clearly the harassment, you know, incontrovertible evidence. And also there was a court case that the landlord brought against us for eviction, and you can't do that under the ETPA. And so they just in their arrogance and in their nescience and in their inefficiency just dropped the case. They just dismissed it with no grounds at all. And they told lies, one lie after another, without going into all of their lies, which I did repeat to the Appellate Division and said, watch out for these lies. So Judge Coppola did another bad job. You know, it's a political decision, like every decision that comes out of the Westchester County Supreme Court. It's all political. So those are the two that we have, and so I say what's pending there is that we are waiting for the decision of the appellate division. And CBS I am taking to the New York State Court of Appeals. I'm working on that now, and when that's written, I will read it to you. As far as Glendora versus Elizabeth Hubbard, Alan Beck, Michelle Mayapath, Judge Coppola, Stephen Kellner, T.J. Mallon, and Edmund Purvis, and the Fund for Ancient Courts. The appeal, the 12 records on appeal and the 12 appellants' briefs were all submitted on April the 4th, 1995. So what's pending there? We're waiting for the defendant's respondent's brief, and that will be a Lulu under the aegis of Edmund Purvis, who never seems to understand how to do anything in a court. As far as Collibella calling a conference, a hearing about the $4,500 attorney's fees that Purvis is asking for, we have heard nothing on that this week. We have heard nothing from him since the telephone call, can you come to a hearing at 2 o'clock in the afternoon when the telephone call was made at noon. You know, it takes me something like 26 hours to prepare for one of these hearings. You have to get out the whole file, you have to read the case, you have to refresh your memory, you have to review the issues, you have to review all of the wrongs that the courts have done and the defense has done. And it, you know, to call up, can you be there in 3 hours? That's no way to run a court, and I played you that recording. You and Michael Gelman, did you hear about the Czechoslovakian trampoline team? They're called the bouncing Czechs. When psychiatrists use such big words, the psychiatrist said, you are suffering from cashew maraschino complex. What does that mean? You're nutty as a fruitcake. A neurotic is a person who builds castles in the air. A psychotic is a person who lives in castles in the air. And a psychiatrist collects rent from both of them. I just don't know how to resolve the problem with Michael Gelman. We got a case here where the lawsuit is for $380, and the judge made a wrong decision, and I want to appeal it because I know it's wrong. The case was decided without the benefit of hearing the evidence, the audio tapes, without the benefit of seeing the log. And I know that's wrong, and I know it's a denial of due process. And I want to stand up for what's right. But in order to appeal a case, you have to have the minutes, and Lila Kaplan is charging $740 for the minutes. I have had this fight in courts for 4 years now. The rip-off for the minutes, I paid $1,450 for the minutes for the appellate term, 9th and 10th Judicial Districts, Ingracia, Collins, and DePaulo, and I know they never read the minutes. And they wouldn't take the case unless you paid, so they're all in cahoots. There's collusion, the courts and the stenographers, and then when they type up the minutes, folks, they don't use up the whole page. They use these great big margins at the top and down at the bottom and over the side, so actually you're getting about this much page. And they charge you something like $5 a page. The whole thing is crooked. It's one of the worst things that we need court reform for, other than bad judges. I just don't know what to do with that. You can't go out and pay. First of all, I don't have $740, and but you can't go out and pay that on a $380 case. So what does it come down to? It denies you justice. you can't get justice because of the crookedness of the cost of court stenographers' minutes. I've been campaigning against this for years, you know that. What am I going to do? I've asked Lila Kaplan to tell me how much it would cost just for those portions of the transcript where the judge denied giving me an opportunity to present my audio tape evidence, and where the judge denied giving me an opportunity to present my log evidence, my written log. So I think there is a rule, CPLR 5528, I think says that you can just have those parts of the transcript where, what is it called? I'll have to look it up for you. I'll look it up for you. I got to get together a paper, and then I'll read it for you. But that's the problem right now with Michael Gelman, other than the fact that Michael Gelman doesn't believe that you should return a person's property, other than the fact that Michael Gelman feels that you should run off with a person's property and not have any responsibility, accountability, or ethics to return it. And that's the point that I'm trying to make. The Michael Gelman file, all over $380. Look at it. That's Volume 1. Volume 2. The appellate term in Manhattan is the court to whom the appeal goes and decides the appeal. Volume 3. Volume 4. I love putting Michael Gelman in an NBC envelope. That appellate term is very interesting. They run it so differently than the appellate term in the 9th and 10th Judicial District, the one that's in Brooklyn that meets most of the time in Mineola, Nassau County. This is the Manhattan one. It's really kind of interesting and different. And they have many, they have advantages, yeah. And of course, like everything else, they probably have disadvantages. Okay, so that's the problem with Michael Gelman at the moment. Another thing I might do is a stipulation, and I have sort of written that out, and I don't have time exactly to finish it, but a stipulation between Glendora and Michael Gelman that only those parts of the transcript will be necessary to submit, and the two I told you about, the audio taped evidence and the evidence of the log, and get it signed by him and by me, and see if the court will take that. No, I think that's everything on Glendora versus Michael Gelman, who is the producer of Live with Regis. A filling station? No, I think that's everything on Glendora versus Michael Gelman, who is the producer of Live with Regis. A filling station, a gasoline station, and it said, and it was also a little restaurant, and the sign said, "Eat here and get gas." And A retirement party is a situation where the boss says all of those nice things about you that he never said when you asked for a raise. And there was a restaurant in the, and it had a sign in the window and it said blended coffee. And the customers asked the waitress, what's it a blend of? And the waitress has said, yesterday and today's. And now what happened on the, let's see, that would be April the 6th to April the 13th today, on the law breaking of Walsh, Alpucci, Larkin, their lawyers, and the court. It took several hours. Of course, there wasn't any time to get these logs out when they should have got out. This is a log of 320 week. Here is the actual log. Here it is reduced, and it has to be pasted up and a master made, and then it has to be printed, and then it has to be posted. This log is backed up from the week of March the 27th. Let me read you the 7.5 hours on the week of April the 3rd, $8.58. The number of tortious acts or injuries is 2,312, and the number of pages is 2,654. And then for the week of March the 27th, 4 hours on Walsh, Alpucci, and Larkin. Number of tortious acts, 2,327. Money spent, a 0. And the pages are up to 2670, the record of the law breaking. Now this log didn't get out last weekend when it should have. This is all backed up too. And this is what happened on the week of April the 3rd. And the tally on that is and a half hours of labor, $10.03, and the number of tortious acts is 2,331. The page number is 2698, and also you have the $50 that Franklin lost taking off from work to go to the Judge Wood conference. So that comes up to $60 that the wall law breaking cost us last week, or the week of April the 3rd. Assembled, and the reductions have been made, and the next thing is to paste them up and to make a master, print them, and then have them posted. Now, here's another $50 that the law breaking of these savages has cost us. This is for the note of issue. And there's the county clerk's receipt. It costs $50 to file a notice of issue. And you say, well, what is a note of issue? Well, it's just that. It's a note that there is an issue. And this issue is tort. It's the violation of the White Plains Noise Ordinance. It's intentional infliction of emotional disturbance. It's harassment, intent to alarm and annoy with no legitimate purpose, and insulting and abusive language. That is the issue, and it says here that a trial by jury is demanded of all issues, and that the amount demanded is $42,000, that the plaintiff is Glendora, and she is pro se. And it says that the lawyer is Bruce P. Bendix, but I really don't think that he's on this case anymore, because I really don't think that he's been paid by Walsh and Alpucci. Anyway, this note of issue for $50 was served along with this certificate of readiness for trial. And it says, all pleadings served, complied. Bill of particulars served, complied. Physical examinations completed, not required. Medical reports exchanged, not required. Appraisal reports exchanged, not required. Compliance with the rules and matrimonial actions, not required. Discovery proceedings, now known to be necessary, completed. And there are no outstanding requests for the discovery. There has been a reasonable opportunity to complete the foregoing proceedings. There has been compliance with any order issued pursuant to Pre-calendar rules 22, New York Code Rules and Regulations. If a medical malpractice action is not, the case is ready for trial. Glendora certifies this on April the 7th, 1995, Friday. And Franklin wrote that I have been a witness to what Glendora has stated. I affirm that it is true. I agree with everything she says. I support her 100%. As to those incidents not known to me personally, upon information and belief, I believe they are true. Okay, that went with it. It was served by Franklin upon Bruce Bendish on the 7th day of April, and it was submitted to the Judge Wood Court on that same day. So that's done. Now that means that the Walsh and Alpucci law-breaking is going before a jury and going before a judge. This is the paper that Judge Wood wrote on for me at the conference, April the 5th. Here's another wacky letter from the New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct, which doesn't do a thing as far as improving the judge situation. Never. They don't do a thing. And it's just another form letter. I read it to you 100 times. Well, I've got about 30 of them. You send them a letter complaining about a judge, you get back the form letter. You know something, when you add in that $50 for the note of issue, then the wall thing cost us $110 last week. Moving on now from the week of April the 3rd to this week. Oh, sorry, something else happened the week of April 3rd. I got out my third essay on evicting the Walsh clan for their law-breaking and their disturbance. Here it is. It has been reduced, and these are the copies that are going out. And that's with this mailing too. I guess that's part 5 of the mailing to John Porzio, owner, 21 Greenwich Avenue, White Plains, New York, 10605, 2 Old Mamaroneck Road, White Plains, New York, 10605, 914-428-6181. Dear John Porzio, March the 28th, 1995, Tuesday, we were without heat and hot water from 5 a.m. to 4 p.m. I was very cold. I needed hot water. I told your answering service. They did nothing. Then at 9 a.m., Regent calls me. I become the liaison between Charlie Miller and the Regent truck in the yard here and Suzanne in the Regent office. I let Charlie use my phone. Charlie can't find the key to the furnace room. I become a go-between. 20 minutes of being used up, plus the stress and turmoil, and I am under the gun to get out a big legal paper. I am forced to act as superintendent, and I don't get paid for that. I bill you $100 for this service. I invoice to John Porzio right now for 20 minutes of time, labor, stress, and turmoil, acting as a liaison between Regent Oil, New Rochelle, and the Regent repairman here. And you never show up on the property. This place needs a superintendent, or you should be here taking care of it. Make the check payable to Glendora for $100. Make the check payable to Glendora for $100. Regent dug up the lawn without notifying Pete Russo at the building department. Code enforcement officer William Gallo called Regent's attention to this. Regent says a new oil line has to be installed from the tank in front to the cellar. Glendora pays $28 a month for the furnace, and she should not be caught in the middle when the furnace breaks down, as it has several times. Glendora should not have to pay anything at all. The breakdown resulting in a major capital improvement for $37,000 occurred before she moved in. March the 31st, 1995, Friday at 5 a.m. again. There is no heat or hot water. Glendora notifies the answering service. Nothing happens. She calls a second time. Nothing happens. Franklin calls. Number 3. Nothing happens. 5 times Glendora calls the answering service, which is really an answering disservice. They do nothing. Glendora is cold and she needs hot water. She pays rent for what? For that, and it is part of the warranty of habitability. The answering service weeps, saying, keeps saying, Mr. Porzio hasn't called in yet. The place needs a superintendent. Mr. Porzio is not here to take care of it. Someone should call Regent. Why doesn't the answering service call Regent? 6 hours go by and I'm cold and I need hot water. With a do-nothing answering service like that, Glendora got angry. With no landlord available and with no superintendent, Glendora got angry. She called the mayor's office. We have had no heat, no hot water for 6 hours, and I'm cold and I need hot water. She gave the location and the name of the owner. I want Mayor Schulman to know about this. The landlord has done, and I pay $28 a month for this furnace. Then Glendora called the building department. They had a code enforcement officer, William Gallo, who also lives on Greenridge a block away, here in 10 minutes. Gallo called the Porzio answering service, who was much nicer to Gallo than to Glendora. Gallo set down the law, no heat, no hot water, no notification, and almost in violation. Before Gallo called, Glendora broke down and called Regent. She did not want to because that is a superintendent's job or the landlord's job, but with a do-nothing answering service, disservice, she had to do it. There are 2 Regent oil companies in the book. She called both of them. The wrong one called back before the right one showed up. Finally, Charlie Miller, who was very personable, came just as Gallo was leaving. Gallo went to the furnace room with Miller. This time Miller had a key to the furnace room. It is a very nice furnace room, housing the $37,000 burner Glendora pays $28 a month for. Gallo told Miller to save grief and big fines to call Pete Russo of the building department just to be on the safe side. Miller found out the problem was not an oil line after all. Porzio almost got ripped off for a huge expense of digging up the front lawn and wall to install a new oil line. The problem was in a 10-inch pipe behind the dryer. Miller is very smart to locate the difficulty. By 3 p.m. Glendora was so cold she went out with Franklin on the errands rather than stay in that cold place with no hot water. She got warmer that way. Finally, a fine thing that you have to go out of the place you pay $988 a month for to get warm somewhere else. Porzio never showed up on the property this time either, that Glendora saw and never sent over the genius handyman Caesar. This place needs a superintendent for such emergencies. Tenants should not have to act as supers. A superintendent should be here to keep the rubbish from becoming so disgusting, to take care of repairmen when they come, and to keep the place tidy and free of litter and law-breaking. John Porzio, will you please, at 6 requests, fix that toppled mushroom stone at the southwest corner of the property. You have let it go since April 1994. It looks terrible. It looks dumpy. Will you please replace the fallen tree from the southwest corner of the building? The exposed roots you have let go since February the 4th, 1995, when the poor tree, during the only snowstorm of the winter, toppled, laden with 10 inches of wet snow. Glendora felt so sorry for the tree, but could not figure out a way to save it. Would you please replace the shrubbery at that same corner, which you told Glendora was mowed down by Regent when they replaced the furnace before I moved here for $37,000. It is hard to figure why Glendora has to pay $28 a month for a furnace that went under before she even moved here. Thank you for reimbursing Glendora so promptly for the battery she replaced in the smoke detector that kept chirping every 5 minutes and became unbearable. The upstairs second-floor smoke detector has been copying the cellar smoke detector. It is chirping intermittently and is very annoying. It needs a new battery. Please get rid of the annoyance. Glendora would like to swap her beautiful new big refrigerator for a smaller one. This nice big one costs $30 a month, making the Con Ed bill for 2 people way too high. Could you give the refrigerator to somebody who needs it and provided us with a smaller one? The same applies to the big Magic Chef stove with 2 ovens. It is lovely and bakes beautifully, but a smaller one would be better. The plumber came to the door and said, "Where's the drip?" The wife said, "He's upstairs trying to fix the leak in the bathroom." The garden apartment quote-unquote lawn, as you advertise it in the newspaper, is being slaughtered by the many girls in 3C and by Daniel Walsh and frequent guests. It is very sad to see the grass killed and the beauty of it wane. By the way, it needs wane. The tenants in buildings B, C, D do not use the walk. Instead, they keep killing the grass, wearing paths every which way across the lawn. James Walsh walks stupidly all over said lawn in roller skates and does a ruthless caveman job cutting up the lawn and making divots. This is grounds for eviction. Grounds for eviction. James Walsh goes up and down the hall stairs of Building A in roller skates, maybe a couple of times a day. This is a dumb thing to do. It makes a lot of noise and it damages the property. 21. Grounds for eviction. March the 26, 1995, Sunday, 10:15 a.m. Franklin was waiting across the street in the Lincoln to drive us to church. Glendora came out of the front door of Building A to go to Franklin. Daniel Walsh and James Walsh were sitting in their red truck with a motor idling in their parking space. As Glendora went down the walk from the front door, Daniel Walsh, through his open window, started taunting Glendora and additionally using his most frequent word, F blank 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 K-I-N-G. He let out a volley of such abuse for a full 30 seconds. You know the rest of that, how I videotaped it, and I showed it to you. That is grounds for eviction. Glendora has the right to exit her home without being attacked by a maniac. Roberta blasts the red truck horn into Glendora's kitchen and dining room windows. This is grounds for eviction. We never blow our horn except what it is for, to prevent a car accident. Grounds for eviction. Daniel, Roberta, and James Walsh continue breaking 4 laws: the White Plains Noise Ordinance, intentional infliction of emotional disturbance, harassment, intent to annoy and alarm with no legitimate purpose, insulting and abusive language. Grounds for eviction. March the 28th, 1995, Tuesday, 3:52 p.m., Roberta blasted the red truck horn into Glendora's dining room window 3 times. Glendora videotaped this from the kitchen window. 5 minutes later, Roberta came in the front hall to go upstairs and kick Glendora's front door as hard as she could. There is a shoe mark on the door. Glendora grabbed the camera and went out into the hall and videotaped Roberta hustling into her apartment as fast as she could and dragging James in with her. Grounds for eviction. Franklin was home and saw the whole thing. These are only a small few of the tortious acts these lawbreakers have committed in the past 3 weeks. There are many, many, many more. There is the foul cigar stench Daniel causes in the hall, the malodor of cigarette smoke and booze. Grounds for eviction. They simply do not have the appreciation that this is a great place to live. Instead of appreciating this fact, they abuse the place, and this gives you ample grounds for eviction. And this is the 3rd time Glendora has expressed this to you in writing. The first was September the 1994, Labor Day. The second was December 1994, New Year's. It is time you resolve this problem. Your passive negligence will get you into deep trouble. Glendora's right to peacefully hold and enjoy warranty of habitability is being violated. There have been 2,020 tortious acts, violations, injuries since April of 1993. That's 2 years ago. Their law-breaking should have been stopped 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years ago, Easter. Of course, Easter then was April 12th, so actually it's 2 years ago today, yesterday, that this all erupted. With the Walsh, Alpucci, and Larkin families violating the White Plains Noise Ordinance. And then when Glendora stood up for her rights and videotaped them, they started their campaign of harassment and intentional infliction of emotional disturbance and of abusive and insulting language. That's 2 years ago, and now Walsh and Alpucci are going to trial. They go to trial shortly. Judge Wood signed the order for trial readiness April 5th, 1995. We have gone to the DHCR to see what our rights are. They have given them to us in writing. We want our lease renewed in no more than 120 days nor less than 90 days from November 30th, 1995. We thank you for providing us such a good place to live. In spite of the account supra, we still like you as a person. We wish you well. And here's today's joke. Policeman pull over to the curb. You don't have a tail light. And Dick got out and looked and saw that he didn't. And he began to quiver and shake and cry. And the policeman says, it's only a tail light. And Dick says, yeah, but what happened to my wife and trailer? The policeman said, well, yours in truth, Glendora. And then the exhibits are the logs that I kept in longhand of those days when I went 6 hours without heat or hot water. Now this is part 5, I guess, of this mailing. And then part 6 of it, I sent him and everybody else the rules of the DHCR, which are very well stated and very well presented. This is a lease renewal. And landlord fills in this part, and the tenant signs it. And it has to be 120 days, no more than 120 days and no less than 90 days. It has to all be settled. And here's the list of fact sheets from the DHCR. This came from White Plains. Franklin went down and got them. The rent guidelines, boards, maintenance and operations cost survey, lease renewals, senior citizen rent increase exemption. Senior citizens, the rent can't be increased. Heat and hot water, rent increases for major capital improvements. That's a furnace I'm paying $28 for. The Emergency Tenant Protection Act, that's the law that I keep quoting to you, and that Coppola disobeyed, and the DHCR disobeyed, and the William Street DHCR disobeyed, and the landlord disobeyed. Not this landlord, 2 landlords ago. And major capital improvements. And this tells about the Rent Guidelines Board. They raise the rent every year and how much they can raise it. And a landlord has to get in a maintenance and operations costs statement. And if he doesn't do that, he's violating the law and he can be fined, or he can't have any rent increases if he doesn't get it in. But here's the rent increase. From October 1st, 1990 until September 30th, 1991, 4% for a 1-year lease renewal and 7% for a 2-year lease renewal. Why is it more when you renew for 2 years? It says, gives an example here, $500 rent. Ha! That's a laugh. $500, the old rent times 4% of $500 is $20 rent increase, and the new rent will be $520 a month. Now take if you're renewing it for 2 years, say the old rent is $450, that's a laugh. Where'd you ever hear of that kind of a rent? Times 7% is $31.50, so the new rent is $481.50. You ought to go down to the DHCR and get this. Now, senior citizen rent increase exemption. They give a figure, $16,500. That is, if your income is under that a year, your rent can't be increased. And here's the heat and hot water provisions. I'm going to read you the temperatures. Okay, from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. The temperature has to be 68 degrees in your home. And from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. the temperature has to be 60 degrees. That's too cold, I think. Now here's about how I pay $28 a month for the new furnace. It's called major capital improvements. This is something that the crooked landlord lobby got through the legislature by handing out a lot of money and taking a lot of people to lunch and buying a lot of perks and favors. This is about the Emergency Tenant Protection Act. Here's more about major capital improvements. Here's some questions that we have to ask. So we work on this 15 minutes a day. Now what else is going on? Reedy, Wilson, Bave, Cousins, Koza, Comboy, Karamitzos, Odell, and McGrath, that greedy law firm. They got out their, enclosed, please find, they got out their order to Judge Wood to sign. Enclosed, please find the original one copy of our order with notice of settlement in regard to the above captioned matter. So they got that out, and that's their letter. And then they got out, please take notice that the order of which the within is a true copy will be presented to the Honorable Harold L. Wood, one of the judges of the within named court at the courthouse located at 111 Grove Street, White Plains, New York, on the 25th day of April, 1995, for him to sign. And then they write the order. And the order states some of the action that has gone on. And so they included in it costs and disbursements, and they included in it sanctions if deemed fit. And this is a screwball order that Judge Wood signed. You know, you read my long protest to that. I read that to you. That's bizarre. You know, how can you sign an order for summary judgment on a case when the facts, there's a dispute of facts, and the facts have never been presented, and the evidence hasn't been presented? It's just screwy. It just looks so bad. It's strictly political. It's a political tie between the Wilson Bave law firm and Judge Wood and the Republicans and their boss. So they presented this order for Judge Wood to sign. So I presented a cross order, and I took out the costs and disbursements, and I took out the sanctions, and we'll see which one he signs, and that'll be April the 25th. That is due to be signed. So that went out on April the 10th, which was Monday. And this is part 6 of this mailing. Now what else is there? Well, I guess all that's left is the log. This order came from the Judge Wood court. That John Sulich is a crackerjack. He's really good. And I thanked him. And so that was Friday that we spent all that time. Franklin spent an hour and 25 minutes. Glendora spent an hour and 25 minutes getting the note of issue ready for the county clerk and putting down the $50. We videotaped and edited chapters 120 and 121 of the Wall law-breaking, Wall, Chalpucci, and Larkin law-breaking. Thursday was a day of peace, and Friday so far up until noon was. On Saturday, we served upon Walsh and Alpucci the notice of trial, and the smoke alarm keeps chirping. And we typed Porzio at 8:30 a.m. and it took an hour, and it cost $2.10 to print the Wood note of issue, and it cost $50 for the note of issue, and it cost 43 cents to print it, and postage was $3.50. So Third, first week of April. A boy in 2A keeps banging the tops of the nice new computerized washing machines. You know, I don't know why he does this. Why didn't he put his laundry in all at once and close the door gently? But he puts in some laundry and it's going around, and then he picks up the top and he throws in some more, and then he lets it bang, 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 bang. You can hear that up here for one thing, and he just ruins the machine. Wasn't about it. And that's the mailing list that this will go to, this great big mailing, 6 parts. Also will go out is the protest about the Judge Wood decision, which was read to you last week. April 10th, Mary Ann came and she made the halls look so clean and smell so clean, and also the basement. And she also replaced the batteries and the smoke detectors. So we got rid of the chirping. I sat in the field. It's beautiful. The forsythia is coming out, and the jonquils. The Porzio request for eviction, third request, was printed, and his copy was mailed. The other ones are going out in this big mailing. I made one of my mother's old-fashioned recipes, molasses spice cake, and the oven bakes so beautifully. And we spent $1 on Walsh, and it must have been about 1 hour, 3 hours, about 4 hours getting out that Porzio mailing. We read the DHCR paper every day at 3 p.m. James Walsh came down the hall stairs of Building A in roller skates, preceded by a guest doing the same. That's 2 boys going upstairs in roller skates inside the house and coming downstairs. It's very noisy, and it's destructive of the property and its grounds for eviction. At 4:30 p.m. James Walsh and his guest did the same dumb thing again, up the hall stairs in roller skates and down the hall stairs in roller skates. And I got it on videotape, and you've seen it. At 8 p.m. we filed, paginated, and did the log mailings. We got an hour done. This was on Tuesday, April the 11th, but then a chat with Glendora was on at 9 p.m. on TCI. And so we had to postpone the wall work until the morning. And we finished it all up. These are these mailings that I just went through with you that all have to go out. And I'm looking for the number of hours on that. I guess it was another hour and a half. And then the envelopes had to be made. Ed went for a ride in his friend's new car, and Ed obeyed all of the seat belt rules. And when they got home, Ed unbuckled the shoulder belt, and he unbuckled the waist belt, and he unbuckled all the other belts, and he got out of the car, and his pants fell down. So it looks like Tuesday was a day of peace. We spent $1.33 on wall, and then it came to me as to what to do about this bad decision by Judge Wood, dismissing my complaint against the Larkins. Well, 1. Sue Larkin in White Plains City Court for violation of the White Plains Noise Ordinance. 2. Sue Larkin, General Accident, Wood, Carlucci, Koza, Comboy, Cousins, Karamitzos, Bave for violation of due process under color of state, and reiterate all of the things with the same effect. And Sue Larkin in Yonkers Small Claims Court, and of course appeal the Wood crazy decision of March the 23rd, 1995 to the Appellate Division. There is this possibility, which is here in this green folder, of putting before Judge Wood a motion to to vacate and reconsider, and just tell him that, as I've told the whole world, that you can't dismiss a complaint on summary judgment when there's a dispute of facts, when the evidence hasn't been heard, when no witnesses have been called, when there's been no trial and there's been no jury. You just can't go out and dismiss a case on summary judgment. It's obviously a political decision. The whole world knows it's political. And the thing is, does he want to vacate the decision? And if he doesn't, then I'll just read him the list of what we will do. We can try that. But remember, the thing has to be appealed in 30 days. And let's see, he issued the decision on March the 23rd, so it's only until April 23rd. It has to be appealed, or there's no appeal at all. That's one rule that the appellate division follows strictly. All the other rules are very slipshod about. At the retirement party, when we heard that you were leaving, we all got together to give you this memento. And instead he said, when we heard you were leaving, we all got together to give you this momentum. Now, at John's retirement party, the boss said, we have created this special gold watch to serve as a reminder of your many years with the company. It needs a lot of winding up. It's always a little behind, and at 5 p.m. it stops working. Pete says that retirement won't change you that much. You'll find that all of those things that you never had time to do, now you'll not have the money to do. So it won't change you that much. I told you all along how gifted and smart and keen Franco DeRose is. He's the public access coordinator at TCI White Plains. And he never misses a trick. He's so keen. He's got the greatest eyesight, and nothing ever gets by him. And then he showed me last Thursday his computer drawings. Can you imagine doing this on a computer? They have a thing called a paintbrush. And he did this on a computer. I couldn't even do it with a pencil. Now that's one. Let me show you another one. These are drawings by Franco DeRose on a computer. He's the public access coordinator at the White Plains Public Access Studio for TCI. I just think that's phenomenal. He has public meetings on the renewal of the TCI franchise, and people are writing letters, and they had people came and spoke. You've seen it on channel 15, I think, channel 15, that meeting, the cable TV. And so I was asked to write a letter to Mayor Schulman. They had to be in by April the 10th, Monday at 5 p.m. And this is the letter that I wrote to Mayor Schulman about TCI. Glendora supports TCI 100%. The TV picture on the cable is impeccable. I never have any trouble with my cable TV technology. The cable casting of my program is perfect. My editing at the TCI studio in White Plains is superior to any other editing I know of at any other cable TV system. It could not be better. One time TCI lost my check in payment of the monthly service, but Lisanne Powers intervened, and I have had no problems since. Glendora believes that TCI should give senior citizens a discount. We are both senior citizens. My satisfaction with TCI is largely due to 4 people: Earl Quam, Ira Birnbaum, Lisanne Powers, and Franco DeRose. Here's today's joke. Don and Debbie call their car flattery. It never gets them anywhere. Yours in truth, Glendora. 2, creating a database of activists, grassroots group, and other organizations working on issues of judicial selection and discipline. 3, identifying members of the media sensitive to the enormous power wielded by judges and receptive to stories about judicial selection. 4, developing informational materials about how citizens can participate in creating a meaningful judicial selection process, and developing a newsletter and posting informational material on the internet. That's the Center for Judicial Accountability. Every week I remind you of that. I would like to see you join. It costs $25. I sent my $25 in. I think I sent it in twice. They think I didn't. So I sent it in again just to be sure. And we balled out the United States Supreme Court on this program this week. Now we're going to ball out the Second Department of the Appellate Division of the New York Supreme Court. This is about the decision against, it's a decision, the lawsuit against Philip Amicone, White Plains Building Commissioner and former mayor of White Plains, Del Vecchio. Glendora shows you where Judge Gurian broke a law, CPLR 2216. An order must issue within 60 days after the motion is submitted. You crookedly ignored this. This is to the Appellate Division, Second Department, New York Supreme Court. You unilaterally and politically stand up for the judges. It is an old boys club. You adulterate the system. Judges Thompson, Lawrence, Hart, and Goldstein do not do their homework. They do not read the papers. They do not know the case. The ineptitude of the calendar fails to notify Glendora of the oral argument. She explains this to you. You do not have the decency to reschedule an oral argument. You do not care about doing your job right. You get paid over $100,000 a year and you can't do an honest day's work. Why don't you go out and make an honest living? Why don't you go out and do a clean job? I tell you, we are fed up with this. We are going to join the rally outside 45 Monroe Place and let you people know how badly you are doing. People are disgusted with your not doing your job. Do you know what you stood up for? A public official not doing his job, a public official having no duty toward a citizen, the worst job a public officer can do instead of the best. It's sort of like you. A public officer does not have to perform his duty. A public officer can be as irresponsible as he likes and you support him. You think this is the kind of America my husband Franklin offered his life for D-Day 50 years ago? Judge Charles Lawrence is dead. We say a prayer for him. You hate pro ses. That is unconstitutional. That is a deficiency on your part. You do not ask a pro se questions. You do not care. You do not give a pro se equal justice under the law. You fail on your raison d'etre. Madam Justice is dead. Did you go to her funeral? You do not do your work. You do not read the papers. You pick out the bold headlines and the defense papers written by mercenaries who get paid to lie and quote them in your decision. You never quote the plaintiff. You have a bad record and it is living forever, but you are not. Glendora has gone to this court 12 times looking for justice. You have failed 10 out of those 12 times. You do not know what you are doing. The taxpayers spend all this money on you and your green marble and gold gild, and you don't do your job. You are a public disgrace. You have cost me $12,000. You have given me nothing. I will be there outside on the sidewalk, 45 Monroe Place, protesting your unfitness. Read what the Center for Judicial Accountability has to say about the likes of you. We have a bench of hollow black robes. You have sold your souls at a very cheap price. Just put up the sign on the court door, closed, out of order. The courts are broken down. They don't work anymore. They are useless. It's a huge expense we do not need anymore. You condone the worst in society. You eschew the best. And you take forever to do it. The Second Circuit handled 4 appeals for me in 1/3 the time it takes you to do one. You have drained our checking account, burned our lives, corroded our leisure, and shortened our few years left. Courts are the worst consumer ripoff in America today. We give you 200 hours of body, mind, sweat, and tears. You knock off this tripe in 15 minutes. You will not look at a pro se in the eye because you know you are going to double-cross her. You are too ashamed to go eyeball to eyeball. You are the worst court there is. You charge us $250 for appellate intervention, and look at what you give us in return. You won't even address an envelope and stamp it. We have to do that for you. No other court makes us spend all that time and all that money and all that hard work making the record on appeal. All the grown-up courts have the lower court submit the record on appeal. You are the only one who doesn't. You make us pay $245 to get into the so-called Supreme quote-unquote court in Westchester, and then $250 to appeal this atrocious bungling in your court equals $495. The feds charge us $120 to file a case and $105 to appeal it. The town courts, village courts, the U.S. Court of Appeals, the U.S. Supreme Court all make the clerk of the lower court submit the record. Apologies are extended for the typos, but you have drained enough of my life. I just do not have time to go back and correct them. I got up at 3 a.m. to get this protest off to you. Typos don't matter when Glendora reads this on TV with the superimposure of crooked liars and corrupt courts. Again, you go out and get a clean job. Do an honest day's work. Earn your money. My husband says you can't do anything right. I weep for the people who had criminal cases before you. Yours in truth, Glendora. To Judges K, Trafficante, Malonis, Gerald Stern, Do Nothing Commission on Judicial Conduct, Gary Casella, another Do Nothing Grievance Committee, 9th and 10th, and to the lawbreakers and their paid-for liar, their mercenary, and to Gaetano James Mangano. And now then, here is the protest to the same court, the Appellate Division, 2nd Department, New York Supreme Court, 45 Monroe Place, Brooklyn. Glendora protests more bad work by the same on the CBS decision. Do you know what you stood up for? One thing after another that is un-American. Abuse of the public's airways by greedy billionaires. You stood up for lying, cover-up, for Judge Rosado, who cannot follow the law, who breaks the law himself, and yourselves, who break a New York state law. You stood up for 22 negligences, copping out to big business, despoiling your oath, flipping the code of judicial responsibility, not doing your job. Glendora is going to join the demonstrators against the crookedness of the Appellate Division, 2nd Department, 45 Monroe Place, Brooklyn. We will let the world know how the black robes have been hollowed. They have no insides. These courts are like a disease, like flesh-eating bacteria. You cannot get rid of them. You believe the lie they teach you in school that if you are wronged, you go to court, there you will find justice. There the bad guys are punished. There the bad guys are not punished and the good guys find relief. No, this is what you learn in school, that the bad guys will be punished and the good guys will find relief. That's what you're taught in school. Well, tell the truth. Tell it the way it is. The courts stand up for the crooks and punish the injured. Figure it out. It is hopeless. Shut the doors. You are a liability. You are no asset. You break the law. Glendora showed you CPLR 2219. An order determining a motion shall be made within 60 days. After the motion is submitted for decision. Rosado is 3 weeks late. Glendora tells you about this in her appellant's brief, in her reply brief, and in her oral argument, and you crookedly ignored every for him. What is your soul worth? You are there to enforce the law, but you break the law. You cover up for your buddies. Even the clerks, whom I know well and like, are neglecting their calling just as you are. They failed to notify Glendora of the Amicone oral argument February 7, 1995. Then they failed to notify Glendora of the 2 oral arguments on April the 4th, 1995. We pay $250 for this slop. You are a monopoly. We have nowhere else to go. We have no choice. We can't shop around. You are totally unsupervised. The Commission on Judicial Conduct has sold its raison d'etre to you. Your defiance of your oath passes from one day to the next, one telephone call after another and one social function after another. Glendora likes Judge Sullivan. She thanks him for being the second and last judge out of 36 judges to ask her a question or oral argument. Unfortunately, the question revealed Judge Sullivan had not read the papers. Glendora never sued for breach of contract. She made this pellucid. It was only an obfuscation introduced by lying Jacobs to scare the courts away from the merits of the case, to which these lawbreakers will never have a defense. CPLR 3211B. Arrogant CBS knows they have you in the palm of their hand, just as they did Rosado. They don't even have to oppose with an oral argument. They know you will take care of them and support them on every evil they have committed. You are wrong to make a big issue of defamatory. It is just a pad because you don't face the gravamen, negligences. You call these courts, there is no evidence taken, no witness sworn, no discovery, no conferences, no jury, no trial. It was a correspondence school. Glendora never saw Judge Rosado eyeball to eyeball. As Glendora listed her points, alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, Judge Krausman asks, is there an omega? Glendora concludes it was all Greek to him. Your ineptitude and Judge Rosado's have tripled the infliction of emotional disturbance with no physical effect. The world will always remember you broke a law, CPLR 2219. In sum, everything except the specifics of the Amacombe protest applies to you four. And here is the law, CPLR Rule 2219. An order determining a motion shall be made within 60 days after the motion is submitted for decision. And Judge Rosado was over 3 weeks late. Help reform our legal system. Help reform our judicial system, if you can call it that. That's the Center for Judicial Accountability. Join them. There's their number. Please call them up. And here is the prayer for the 6th Wednesday in Lent, which was yesterday. O God, your dearly beloved Son was greeted by the crowds on Olivet with hallelujahs, but in that same week he was mocked as he went lonely to the cross. Forbid that our welcome of him should be in words alone. Help us, we beseech you, to keep the road open for him into our hearts. Let him find there not another crucifixion, but love and loyalty, in which your kingdom may be established evermore. Amen. Adapted from Walter Russell Bowie. The problem with retiring, folks, is that you never know what day it is, where you're supposed to be, or what you're supposed to be doing. It's sort of like the Supreme Court. 10-year-old Johnny says that he's decided that he wants to do, when he grows up, he wants to be a philanthropist. Why do you want to be a philanthropist? They're the ones with the money. And Billy says there's only one thing that kept me from being rich. What is that? Money. Now, do you know the difference between a Xerox machine and the flu? Well, a Xerox machine makes facsimiles, and the flu makes sick families. These are the palms of Palm Sunday. This is the Thursday. This is Monday, Thursday. The service at church is 7 o'clock. How the disciples one by one. And the candles went out one by one. And the church will be totally dark. This is between Palm Sunday and Easter. And so, God be with you till we meet again. Keep love's banner floating o'er you. Put his loving arms around you. God be with you till we meet again. Are the computerized dryer, the washer I told you about. Put your money in there and then it says to put another quarter in and it says to put another quarter in. They're just beautiful. I've told you about them many times. I guess it's a good idea for me to show them to you. And then this is the computerized dryer. Are left. Grass has been murdered. See, this used to be all grass along here. This is done by the girls in 3C. See that? Not too bad. There used to be a lawn. Here's 3C over there, here's 2B here, and here's 4D up here. Just want to show you again the grass has been murdered. It's a simple enough thing to do, to come along and walk along the walk, and go to your apartment that way. wanted you to see the Forsythia on March the 14th, 1995. Friday, and there's just one more thing to show you here. Poor tree. Poor tree. Poor lady when snow fell over across the tree. This is where I feed the birds and squirrels. But here are some little flowers. Cute. The time is 10:30 a.m. Now then, folks, I think there's time for 3 jokes. If I've calculated this right, it's a matter of arithmetic. I'm forever saying hello in the middle of a show and saying goodbye at the top of a show. But we'll see if this one comes out right. Paul is all excited because his name is on the cover of Time magazine. His buddy says, "Yup," he says, "there it is, his name and his address." And Peter was strolling along the beach, and he picked up a seashell, and he put it to his ear, and this is what he heard. "Why aren't you working, you bum?" It was his mother-in-law. Now, Gerald was bragging that he just returned from a half-year cruise, and his friend set the world straight by saying yes, they sent him up the river for 6 months. I think this is a chat with Glendora, and I think this is the end of the program. And if you like the program, would you please tell your friends and your fellow workers and your family and your relatives. And if you didn't like the program tonight, let's just keep it our little secret. Hi there, everybody. How you doing today? 3 jokes. Anthony says that he must give very, very good advice because it must last for a lifetime, he says, because nobody ever comes back for any more. And Elaine says about her boyfriend, "But Dad, he has only one fault." And Dad says, "Yes, he's miserable." And Ed says that when they made him, they threw away the mold, and his mother-in-law says that's true. It was a precautionary measure. And now we're going to start the events of Glendora Cheerful Look at Life, and that is from, let's see now, from April the 13th, Thursday, to today, April the 20th, Thursday, the week after Easter. First report up is Glendora versus Scott Lord, Conrad Duberstein, Andrew Maloney, former United States Attorney. This is the current volume, the most recent volume, It's about 3 pounds, and it's volume 51, and the pagination is up to 6,000 pages. 6,000 pages of bad record. Sent out with $100 free installation on a lawn sprinkler system that a fellow lawn irrigationist sent me. And that what happened there was is a license up in the corner. Let me find this for you now. It's in with the logs. There's a license number for the Department of Consumer Affairs, Nassau County, James Picken, Commissioner. And up in the corner, there's this license number. You see it? So I called up Consumer Affairs and asked them, I said, who has this license number? Well, 115, no, 11, this is worse than going to the Department of Motor Vehicles and trying to read the letters to get your driver's license renewed. And I succeeded. License number H35 009 50000. I said, who has this license? And the person who answered the phone at Consumer Affairs at 160 Old Country Road, Mineola, said, Lillian Rosenthal. And Judith, hold on, let me tell it to you right. Judith D. Nicola. Now I know Lillian Rosenblum to be Scott's mother. And next fact that come out of this investigative reporting, the license was suspended. December 1994, license was suspended. So we have not only Scott Lord operating again without a license, but we have the people that he was hiding behind operating without a license. And what has happened to Jan Stahl and Jeffrey Barnes, I couldn't find out. As I told you, they went away like Arabs in the night and folded their tent. So I would have to go down to the Department of Consumer Affairs, and I would have to make out a Freedom of Information form, and I would have to get those answers that way. Now, the name of the company this year, I tell you, is Forever Green Sprinkler. Every year it's a different name. And the telephone number this year is 516-292-0300. And the address this year is 300 Hempstead Turnpike. Every year, Scott Lord gets a new company name, a new address, a new telephone number, and a new lawyer. Second chapter here on Glendora versus Scott Lord, and all those people I named you, Judge Conrad Duberstein, Judge John Robert Hall, former United States Attorney Andrew Maloney, former United States Trustee Harold Jones, former Assistant United States Trustee Neil Mann. These people don't hold their jobs very long, do they? And the present trustee, Teresa Kavanaugh, and Joseph Derby, who is a retired New York City policeman and works for Pinkerton as security at the bankruptcy courthouse on Bravado Road near the Department of Motor Vehicles in Woodbury, Westbury. Cablevision is in Woodbury. And who else? Oh, Scott Lord, the one who started all this, and also started the Cablevision thing. And Jan Stahl and Jeffrey Barnes, the two people that Scott Lord committed fraudulent conveyances with. The second thing that happened is that there has been no decision as yet from the Supreme Court of the State of New York, Appellate Division, Second Department in Brooklyn. No decision yet. So that's all to report today, I think, on Scott Lord. Pat is very happy, folks, that he sold his house for $450,000, but the landlord isn't too pleased. And I'm not myself today. Did you notice the improvement? And why do you take your paycheck to the bank? Because it's too little to go by itself. And now we will bring you up to date as to what happened on Glendora versus Cablevision. Charles Dolan, John Tata, William Quinn, William Bell, Mark Lusgarten, Francis Randolph Jr., Joseph Vaznara, and the other people whose name you see on the screen, what happened from April the 13th, Thursday, to April 20th, today, Thursday. Okay. I'm dressed up on the top and I'm dressed up in the middle. But in television, you don't have to dress up on the bottom. What's going on here? Doris Sassower, the Center for Judicial Accountability, is suing the New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct. That would be Gerald Stern and all those people I've told you about. And this is good. And so this is her lawsuit. It's in the Supreme Court of the County of New York. So I'm all for that. She just sent this over yesterday, and I want to get a chance to look at it. And I will probably, if I can, if I have the time, ask her for permission to intervene as an amicus curiae, because the Commission on Judicial Conduct, I have submitted over 25 complaints about judges to the Commission on Judicial Conduct, and I get nothing but form letters. This I read every day, folks. It's the CPLR, New York State Civil Practice Laws and Rules, and every day I read it. These are articles 55, 56, 57. 55 is appeals generally, and 56, I believe, is appeals to the New York State Court of Appeals, and 57 is appeals to the Appellate Division. So I read these rules, some of them every day. I started getting these rules out when Cablevision, way back in 1991, when I won a judgment against them for $210, I think it was. And I won this judgment against them, and they appealed it instead of paying it. That's Cablevision for you. That's the management, cheap and greedy and grubby management of Cablevision, which we're putting up with today. This is all franchises in various towns of Nassau County, franchises with Cablevision Systems Incorporated. Only then they had a different name. Cablevision has had so many names, and they still do have about 12 names. They operate under about 12 different names. The company is terribly disorganized. Anyway, this is Strickland, sent out all these franchises and didn't do it back to back. And any court ought to know that anything has two sides. And so I have to go through and I have to use up these backs. And it's 750 pages. This many are used up. There's about 100 pages to go. On Good Friday, I got out. See, this is the brief that was too fat, because the Appellate Division has a limit, 70 pages, that's it. And this brief was too fat. It all had to be changed over into this thinner brief. And I ought to be changed over into a thinner person. And this went out. It was submitted and served to the Appellate Division on April the 14th. It was docketed on April the 17th. So that's all done. Here's what's going to happen on this. Kalaji Cablevision has to get back to me a respondent's brief. And that's it. I don't get a chance to reply to that. They have the last word. And how long do they have to do that? About 15 days. I read this every day. This is much more of a book than I need. really all I wanted was the rules. I don't want all this discussion about what happened with the 1968 amendment and the 1970 amendment. I just want to know the rules. In just a second, I'll tell you the rules I've learned. I've learned about one of them. This is the present Cablevision file. It's file 21. It's already filled. They fill up a file about every week. And there are the minutes, and I'm going to read those to you. About the rules. Okay, what's the first rule? Well, the first rule is the scope of the rules, and the scope is the federal rules, the federal civil judicial procedure. The federal rules of civil procedure shall cover all the rules in all the district courts of the United States. That's the first one. The second one is there's only one action. There's only one action that can be had in the district courts, and that's a civil action. That's Rule 2. Rule 3 is that every action will start with a complaint. Rule 4 is how the summons. The service of the summons, the filing of the summons, and the proof of service of the summons. And Rule 5, I don't know Rule 5. Let me think. I think Rule 5 is the filing and the service of other papers other than complaints would be like motions. And I think Rule 6 has to do with time. And Rule 7, gotta look, folks. Yeah, Rule 6 is time. You have 20 days to answer a complaint or a summons. And we've gone all over this, you and I, together. We've gone down this road many times. And with Cablevision. And then Rule 8. Oh, yes, Rule 8 is the one that Judge Bryant sent me to do follow. That when you file... No, I forgot Rule 7. Rule 7 is pleadings allowed and the form of motions and pleadings. And Rule 8 is the general rules of pleading, and here's what they are. A short and plain statement of the grounds upon which the court's jurisdiction depends. A demand for judgment for the relief the pleader seeks. Excuse me. Number 2 is a short and plain statement of the claim showing that the pleader is entitled to relief. And 3, a demand for judgment for the relief the pleader seeks. And then after that are the defenses. Now, in the case of Cablevision, which we're discussing right now, the complaint was that they broke 531E, which is a federal law. No cable operator shall exercise editorial control over public use of channel. They broke that law by taking my program off of the TV on November the 12th, 1993. And they kept it off for 41 weeks. And Judge Silverman in the state court, because the state has a similar law, ruled that the program had to be returned to TV, and it was. And that happened on September 2nd, 1994. And then what was relief I asked for? $31 million in the federal court. And then I gave the grounds for that. And so Judge Bryant told me go and make an amended complaint, make it very concise, and follow the rules. Follow Rule 8. Now, what is Rule 9? And I'll stop there because that's just how far I am. Pleading rather special matters. Capacity, fraud, mistake, condition of the mind, conditions precedent, official document or act, judgment, time and place, special damages, admiralty, and maritime claims. Of course, I can always skip those, although I'm at sea most of the time. Okay. Very interesting book, but it's far more book than I need. All I need is a little handbook telling me what the rules are. Angela O'Donnell, of whom I was very fond, got out. She's a court stenographer in the United States District Court here in White Plains, Southern District of New York. She got out her her minutes. I'm going to read them to you. They are very interesting, and you really have to think when you read them to figure out what is in Judge Bryant's mind. And then I haven't ever got the minutes from Sue for March the 3rd, 1994. So I wrote to Judge Bryant. And I said, Glendora, I'd like the minutes for the 3/3/95 Friday before you. She has asked for them about 6 times. It has been 6 weeks nearly. Could you please ask if Glendora could have the minutes by 4/21/95 Friday? That's tomorrow. You know, they're moving. They're moving from the building at 101 East Post Road down 2 blocks next to the police station and behind the county courthouse, so that the 4 buildings are going to be there in a quadrangle. There will be the library, the public safety center, that's the police, and the court, White Plains Court, and then there will be the new United States District Court, Southern District of New York, at the corner of Quaropus and Lexington, or Fisher, whatever you want to call it, and then the county courthouse tower. So it's going to make it a whole lot more convenient for we people who have to get something notarized in the county courthouse and then take it to the district court, the federal district court. This is Katie Cat. Yes, Katie Cat. Glad to see you. I know what you want, Katie Cat. You want to be fed for the 4th time today. Well, the Glendora TV log got out, and it got posted. The expenses on Cablevision this week were outrageous. I'm going to read them to you when I get to the last page. Friday the 15th was really some day. I got the legal papers done by 10:30 a.m. Isn't that outrageous? Isn't that amazing? And then I got the details done by 1:41 p.m. And we handed in 4 new programs and picked up the 4 that had been cable cast. And Jim Cahagan called from Rockland County. And Edgar says that my parents thought I was so ugly, they hired another kid to be me in the home movies, to be I in the home movies. Look at Katie. Snuggly. Yes, look at her. Get up and feed me, she says. Sunday was Easter. It was a beautiful day. Christ our Lord is risen today. Hallelujah. Songs of men and angels say, hallelujah. Raise your joys and triumphs high. Hallelujah. Sing ye heavens and earth reply. Hallelujah. There was 28 hours on Cablevision last week, and I spent $141.27 on Cablevision. State of New York still doesn't know anything. A column practically every day. Is the Attorney General going to intervene on Glendora versus Cofault Cablevision? That's lawsuit number 2 before the Appellate Division, 2nd Department of the Supreme Court of the State of New York. I don't know. They haven't decided that yet. Could they please call? What is the number? And this goes on and on and on. You've never seen anything in your life so obtuse as the office of the New York State Attorney General. And here it is in print. This is from the Federal Reporter. Tons and tons of volumes, hundreds of volumes that report the opinions and the decisions and the orders of the federal cases. And here it is: Glendora Plaintiff Appellant versus Cablevision Systems Corporation, Charles F. Dolan, William J. Bell, Mark A. Lesgarten, Francis F. Randolph Jr., John Tarda, Joseph A. Cofault, Joseph Aznara, Thomas Garger, and William Quinn, defendants appellees. And this is the opinion written by Judge Van Grafelen of the United States Court of Appeals, the Second Circuit, the big guy. And this is the decision that vacated Judge Bryant's decision of February the 18th, 1994, dismissing Glendora's complaint against Cablevision and missing very significant law. And it's interesting what it says. I don't know if I can read it without a magnifying glass. It says that they call me a cable television programmer. They should call me what I am, a cable television public access producer. Brought civil rights action against cable television company and its employees arising from cancellation of her cable television program, alleging First and 14th Amendment violations, negligence, and state claims for emotional and reputational injuries. Defendants moved to dismiss the complaint. The United States District Court for the Southern District of New York, Charles L. Bryant Jr., Judge, granted the motion. Programmer appealed, that's Glendora. The Court of Appeals, Van Grafelen Circuit judges held that District Court could not summarily dismiss pro se civil rights complaint without determining whether private federal cause of action could be implied from provisions of Cable Communications Policy Act and Cable Television Consumer Protection and Competition Act. Vacated and remanded. Federal Civil Procedure rule that complaint should not be dismissed unless it appears beyond doubt that plaintiff can prove no set of facts in support of her claim which would entitle her to relief, is particularly applicable in pro se civil rights actions. Pro se is big stuff, and so is civil rights. 2, for the states. To the extent, if any, that state and federal statutes regulating cable television differ, federal statutes control. And 3, federal courts. District Court could not summarily dismiss pro se civil rights complaint of public access cable television programmer against cable television company and its employees arising from cancellation of cable television program alleging First and 14th Amendment violations, negligence, and state claims for emotional and reputational injuries without determining whether private federal cause of action could be implied from provisions of Cable Communications Policy Act. And that one I read, this is sort of like the number 2 I read you, and here's number 4, the last one. Federal Civil Procedure. Motion to dismiss complaint for failure to state claim looks only to allegations of complaint liberally construed. So that's in the Federal Reporter. That goes everywhere, of course. And it's really a case that is making law. Fan letter from Farmingdale, New York. That would be Cablevision land. I think you're great. Please send me a free copy of your Happy Book. Thanks a lot. Ed. So many people ask for the Happy Book. Even Gannett Company Incorporated is up to 54 1/4. Cablevision is up to 55 1/4. Texaco is the biggest, up to 68 3/8, and CBS is up to 62 3/8. And it is that wasn't very long ago that they were all down to $42. United States Supreme Court decisions agreed to use a lawsuit stemming from the 1983 downing of a Korean airliner over the Soviet Union. You remember that? Terrible thing. To clarify what damages can be awarded when Americans die on international flights. Refused to shield a Secret Service agent from being sued for taking along a CBS camera crew when he searched a Brooklyn, New York home 3 years ago. The lawsuit says he violated the resident's right to privacy. Well, I would think so. taking a CBS camera crew into a person's home. We got some telephoning done this week. There are 3 great big debts. Telephoning's way behind. The reading of the New York statutes, I'm supposed to read so many New York statutes a day, is way behind. And all of my 5:30 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. work that I used to do every morning is 11 weeks behind. Now I'm going to read you the minutes. United States District Court. Glendora, plaintiff against Cablevision Systems Corporation, Dolan, Bell, Lusgarten, Randolph, Tata, Kofalt, Osnara, Quinn, United States Courthouse, White Plains, New York, before the Honorable Charles L. Bryant, District Court Judge, Court Reporter Angela A. O'Donnell, proceedings recorded by mechanical stenography. I'd like to know how that works and understand it. Transcript produced by CAT. Cat, you hear that, Katie? By CAT. Appearances, Glendora Pro Se, Satterley, Stevens, Burke and Burke, Robert Kalaji, Robert Perry, Esquire, amicus curiae, and Cairo and Grafman, amicus curiae. Proceedings. Judge Bryant, have you given any consideration to one or both of you representing the plaintiff? Grafman, we have, Your Honor, and I don't think that the plaintiff wants us to represent her. And B, I'm not sure we could live up to her expectations. I think it might be best. Bryant, you did pretty well for her in the Court of Appeals. Grafman, thank you. Perry, thank you. Bryant, I don't see why they can't be admitted as amicus curiae if they won't come in for the plaintiff. Kalaji, yes. Bryant, your application is granted. It's a joint appearance. Grafman, yes. Glendora, Your Honor, did you grant my cross motion to deny their motion? Bryant, you don't need a cross motion to deny a motion. I'm here to hear the motion now. I think you might as well be seated and let counsel for the movement be heard. This is an interesting case, but it's really the last case in the world that anyone can expect to manage pro se. Grafman, Your Honor, may I just ask for a clarification as to what motions are proceeding, because there's a question. Bryant, yes, there's a motion presently before me to dismiss.